Sarah Ferguson is finally prepared to expose everything. The real truth about how she first encountered Meghan, the private encounters the world never witnessed, the powerful circles they both moved through years before Meghan ever caught Prince Harry's attention, and crucially, what destroyed their friendship completely. This isn't palace gossip, this isn't tabloid speculation. This is Fergie, a woman who survived scandals that would have obliterated anyone else, stepping into the spotlight with the kind of raw truth that could tear apart everything the public believes about the royal fairy tale. While Meghan was busy building her perfect new life, crafting her flawless public image, and spinning her carefully orchestrated story about stumbling into royalty by chance, Sarah Ferguson was there watching every calculated move. She witnessed the real beginning, not the sanitized version fed to the media. She saw the strategic positioning. She watched the meteoric rise, and she noticed the cracks appearing long before the rest of the world caught on. Now, with her own reputation already in ruins and nothing left to lose, Fergie is ready to break her silence. Her explosive revelations don't start with wedding bells and fairy tale romance. They start years earlier in shadowy places Meghan hoped would stay buried forever. And once Sarah Ferguson opens her mouth and starts telling this story, it becomes crystal clear why her voice, out of everyone who could speak, is the one weapon that could completely destroy everything Meghan Markle has built. Sarah Ferguson has spent her entire life walking a dangerous tightrope within the royal universe. Close enough to see all the family secrets, but distant enough to suffer the brutal consequences when things go wrong. She's weathered financial scandals, public embarrassments, and personal disasters more times than most people could survive. Each time, she somehow found a way to pick herself up, put on that famous smile, and keep fighting. But now, palace insiders say something fundamental has shifted. For the first time ever, Fergie finds herself backed into a corner with absolutely nowhere to turn. Her royal connections no longer open doors. Her ex-husband, Prince Andrew, has become more liability than lifeline. The royal establishment is cutting ties, and the glamorous world she once inhabited, wealthy, influential, and exclusive, has collapsed into isolation and rejection. When someone hits rock bottom like this, they become extremely dangerous. That's exactly why royal sources believe Sarah's rumored tell-all memoir isn't just gossip, it's a declaration of war. A direct threat aimed at the palace, the media, and especially at Meghan Markle. Because Fergie hasn't forgotten how Meghan treated her during those early royal years, and she certainly hasn't forgotten the explosive secrets Meghan desperately wants to keep hidden forever. A woman who has lost everything is a woman ready to reveal everything. Long before Meghan ever set foot inside royal residences, she was already navigating some of the planet's most elite social circles, environments packed with billionaires, political powerhouses, and high-ranking royalty. And her access to these circles wasn't coincidental. At the heart of this network operated Marcus Anderson, a powerful player at Soho House. He functioned as the ultimate insider, someone who controlled access to the truly influential and decided who deserved entry into their world. Reports suggest he personally connected Meghan to exclusive dinner parties, VIP events, and high-stakes social networks. Then there was Ron Burkle, the billionaire with his own private aircraft and deep connections to King Charles himself. Sources reveal that Meghan actually flew on Burkle's private jet to that Jamaica wedding, a quiet detail that speaks volumes about her real connections. Consider the striking difference. Harry traveled in economy plus while Meghan arrived via luxury private aviation. People like Fergie pay attention to details like that. That elite world always notices who arrives with real connections and who's still climbing the ladder. And Meghan was already walking into exclusive rooms with access that most people never questioned or understood. So when insiders say Fergie knows Meghan's real network, it's not speculation. She knows the key players, she knows who made the crucial introductions. She knows exactly which powerful figures opened doors for Meghan years before Harry ever appeared in the picture. And most dangerously, she knows the authentic version of Meghan that existed before the royal spotlight and palace image management took over. That's the version she's capable of exposing. Long before anyone suspected problems within the royal family, the first warning signs appeared quietly between Meghan and the York daughters. To grasp why this matters, you need to understand how their social circle operates. Beatrice and Eugenie were raised within the royal system but lived outside its protective bubble. They learned the unwritten rules, but they also learned how to navigate around them with humor. They maintained celebrity friendships while staying cautious with newcomers. They grew up watching their mother Fergie endure decades of public criticism and personal attacks. When Meghan first entered their world, they extended genuine friendship. They recognized the overwhelming excitement, they understood the media chaos. They knew firsthand what it felt like to be the fresh face trying to survive in an institution with centuries-old expectations. But then the dynamic shifted completely. Sources reveal that Meghan began creating distance, not gradually but deliberately and harshly. She built walls between herself and the York sisters, particularly after she solidified her relationship with Harry. Conversations that had once been warm and natural suddenly became brief and awkward. Social invitations went unanswered. The feeling of friendship and equality slowly transformed into something much colder. By the time Meghan and Harry established themselves as working royals, the tension had become undeniable. Meghan allegedly began treating Eugenie and Beatrice as inferior, damaged by family scandals, diminished by their parents' controversies, and irrelevant to her carefully constructed new public image. This dismissive behavior created serious problems, not just with the sisters themselves, but with their entire social network and, most importantly, with their fiercely protective mother. This growing resentment would eventually become one of the most crucial elements in understanding what went wrong. Because when Meghan eventually cut Fergie off completely, that simmering anger didn't just disappear, it exploded. And it created the foundation for everything that's happening now. Everything might have stayed buried forever. Fergie could have retreated into obscurity, maintained her low profile, and faded away from royal attention entirely. But the incident that triggered this war wasn't some public scandal or media controversy or dramatic confrontation caught on camera. It was a phone call that was never returned. According to people close to the situation, when Sarah Ferguson reached out to Meghan Markle one final time seeking advice, emotional support, or simply a compassionate conversation, Meghan chose complete silence. No text message back, no phone call, no acknowledgement whatsoever. She just disappeared from Fergie's life entirely. This wasn't a gradual cooling of their relationship, this was brutal, intentional abandonment. Sources reveal that Meghan actively sought separation from the York family dynamics, separation from Andrew's controversies, separation from scandals, separation from anything that threatened her carefully crafted new reputation. From Meghan's perspective, Fergie represented everything problematic, unreliable, chaotic, too controversial, too entangled in situations Meghan refused to associate with. By completely severing ties with Fergie, however, Meghan committed an error far more serious than she understood, because Fergie isn't simply another royal family member. She's someone who witnessed the behind-the-scenes machinations, who knows which influential figures opened doors, and what transpired in private meetings Meghan would prefer to erase from history. Abandoning someone with that level of inside knowledge isn't merely insulting, it can become extremely hazardous. This was the precise moment, this cold and dismissive rejection, that sources believe transformed Sarah Ferguson from a potential supporter into someone determined to reveal everything she knows. This betrayal ignited the entire conflict. When people imagine tell-all memoirs, they typically expect minor gossip, uncomfortable anecdotes, perhaps some mildly embarrassing revelations. But that's not the type of explosive book insiders believe Fergie is developing. Her account would be far more devastating, more comprehensive, and packed with the kind of insider information only someone who lived within those circles could possess. Among the secrets she could potentially reveal: first, Meghan's previous lifestyle and standing within elite social networks. There have always been persistent rumors about how Meghan navigated exclusive social circles, nothing criminal or illegal, but definitely not the pristine fairy tale story the palace carefully promoted. Second, Meghan's supposed early pursuit of Prince Andrew. This information comes straight from court transcript sources. Before she was involved with Harry, Meghan allegedly set her sights on Andrew first. Fergie, who remained deeply connected to Andrew's personal life, reportedly blocked that possibility immediately. Third, the lasting friction from that rejection. Encounters like this don't simply disappear. They create wounds and foster deep, slow-burning grudges that silently fester between families for years. Fourth, the luxury travel arrangements and their financial backers. Details like her flights on Ron Burkle's private aircraft, coordinated through Marcus Anderson, reveal a completely different version of Meghan's early ascent, one that Fergie observed firsthand. Fifth, Tom Inskip and the wedding blacklist. Sources suggest Harry's longtime friend possessed too much knowledge about Meghan from previous years. Fergie allegedly understands the complete truth behind why Meghan refused to allow him at the ceremony. When you piece together all these revelations, this isn't just another celebrity memoir. This becomes a devastating weapon. A weapon capable of demolishing Meghan's carefully constructed backstory, destroying her public image, and undermining the narrative she has fought desperately to maintain. And Fergie, after being dismissed and abandoned, might finally be ready to deploy it. While this drama builds, something very telling is happening within Buckingham Palace walls: complete silence. Not denials, not public reassurances, not any support for Meghan. Just strategic, calculated quiet. According to palace insiders, King Charles remains open to making deals with Fergie, willing to placate her, satisfy her demands, offer her just enough incentive to prevent her from turning her literary weapon against the monarchy. His own past is filled with complications and controversies, and he understands that a tell-all from someone like Fergie could expose vulnerabilities in areas he desperately wants to keep protected. Prince William, though, operates completely differently. He refuses to compromise. He doesn't show panic because, unlike the others, he has no vulnerabilities that Fergie's revelations could expose. But this strategic disagreement creates internal conflict the public never witnesses, conflict Meghan probably never anticipated. Because if the palace concludes that a tell-all memoir is inevitable, if someone must become the scapegoat, if a reputation must be destroyed to deflect attention from more serious problems, it won't be Charles taking the fall. It won't be William, it won't be Camilla. It will be Meghan, a woman the institution no longer requires, a woman who abandoned them, a woman who refused to follow their rules, and if Fergie becomes the instrument that delivers that destruction, the palace has every reason to allow the hurricane to devastate her rather than themselves. That silence, that calculated stillness, isn't peace, it's warfare. Picture a peaceful morning in Montecito, golden sunlight breaking through, gentle ocean breezes, Meghan moving through her daily routine, convinced that life is finally stabilizing around her, convinced the media chaos has subsided, convinced her royal chapter is permanently closed. But thousands of miles away, in an English manor filled with decades of memories and unfinished business, Sarah Ferguson sits down at her desk. Not driven purely by rage, not motivated solely by money, but because for the first time in years, she possesses the freedom to act. She can speak without restraint. She can expose what she witnessed. She can finally reveal years of private observations, intimate moments, and buried truths that were never meant for public consumption. This is the tempest building just beyond the horizon, quiet, powerful, and inevitable. And Meghan, who once perfected the art of personal transformation, now confronts something she cannot rebrand, escape, or manipulate through charm alone. A woman who has endured scandal after scandal and emerged stronger. A woman who understands both the old establishment and the modern world. A woman who watched Meghan climb through social circles she herself once controlled. A woman who feels utterly betrayed. Fergie's explosive memoir wouldn't merely reveal Meghan's hidden past. It would shatter her public image, undermine her marriage, destroy her royal fairy tale, and demolish the carefully crafted persona she sold to the world. The most terrifying reality? Fergie has absolutely nothing left to lose, while Meghan has built an empire that could crumble overnight. As this storm approaches, one question lingers like thunder before lightning strikes. What happens when the woman Meghan dismissed as irrelevant becomes the one capable of rewriting her entire legacy? Only time will reveal the answer, but this much is certain. If Sarah Ferguson decides to speak, the world won't simply hear another celebrity tell-all. It will hear the devastating truth Meghan spent years trying to bury forever. But the tension inside the palace wasn't the only force building behind the scenes. There was another presence shaping this situation, one that Meghan never anticipated and one Fergie has carried with her for decades. Because while the royal household strategizes in silence and Meghan believes she left that world behind, Fergie is driven by memories tied to someone whose influence never truly faded, Princess Diana. People forget how close Diana and Fergie once were. They weren't just in-laws navigating the same pressures, they were confidants who shared private fears about how the royal machine could twist stories and isolate anyone who didn't fall perfectly into line. According to long-standing whispers among former staff, Diana warned Fergie that the institution had a pattern of elevating certain newcomers while quietly setting up others to fail. Those conversations, buried for years, are now resurfacing in the rumor mill as Fergie allegedly reflects on what Diana once told her. And here's where it becomes explosive. Insiders claim Meghan's attempts to position herself as a modern echo of Diana didn't land the way she expected. Within the monarchy, Diana isn't simply a symbol, she is a wound, a memory, a battle the family never fully recovered from. So when Meghan embraced imagery, language, and narratives that paralleled Diana's struggles, many of Diana's old allies reportedly saw it as opportunistic, even provocative. These were people who lived through Diana's suffering, who watched the toll it took, and who viewed Meghan's comparisons as a storyline crafted for public sympathy rather than truth. Fergie, who shared some of Diana's most difficult years, is said to have taken this especially personally. Sources close to the York Circle whisper that she found Meghan's self-portrayal unsettling, almost like someone stepping into a legacy she didn't earn. And because Fergie knew Diana's genuine fears, her private confessions, and the emotional damage she carried, she views the Meghan-Diana comparison through a lens the public has never seen. This unspoken clash created a second divide, one rooted not in scandal or strategy, but in loyalty. Diana's old friends, former staff members who still hold deep respect for her memory, quietly distanced themselves from Meghan. They never spoke publicly, but they didn't need to. Their silence formed its own message, and Fergie, always perceptive, took note. If Fergie chooses to bring this history into her memoir, the consequences for Meghan would be catastrophic. Because this wouldn't just be a royal feud, it would be a battle over legacy between the woman Diana trusted and the woman the public compares to her. And Meghan, for all her careful branding and polished storytelling, can't control what Fergie remembers or what Diana once confided to her. And while these emotional loyalties were quietly shifting in Britain, an entirely different front was opening across the Atlantic, one Meghan believed she had full control over. After stepping away from the monarchy, she expected Hollywood to embrace her as a breakout force, someone who could transform royal fame into global influence. But according to industry whispers, the reality unfolding in California looks nothing like the smooth transition she imagined. In Los Angeles, reputation spreads faster than scandal. Executives talk, producers compare notes, and sources close to several major studios claim Meghan's introduction into Hollywood circles caused more friction than excitement. There were high expectations at first: big-budget partnerships, exclusive deals, influential platforms. But insiders say those early conversations quickly met resistance once Meghan began insisting on creative authority that industry veterans rarely hand to newcomers. The enthusiasm that once surrounded her name reportedly shifted into caution, even frustration. This is where the story takes an unexpected turn. People forget that Fergie spent years in America rebuilding her image. During that time, she formed connections with agents, writers, even producers who now hold decision-making power in today's Hollywood. And according to sources familiar with that network, some of those individuals have quietly shared their own experiences and impressions of Meghan, impressions that don't align with the polished version presented to the public. Rumor has it that a few studios grew uneasy with Meghan's approach, describing her as overly strategic, difficult to guide, and resistant to collaborative input. These are the kinds of red flags Hollywood notices instantly, especially when millions of dollars and long-term branding are involved. And the whispers coming from these circles suggest a growing belief that Meghan's celebrity presence is more volatile than profitable. The dangerous part: Fergie is perfectly positioned to amplify these concerns. If she includes Hollywood chatter in her memoir, even indirectly, it could damage Meghan in ways the royal drama never could. Hollywood doesn't tolerate unpredictability. Executives avoid any personality linked to controversy, even by association. And Meghan, still building her image as a producer, relies heavily on being seen as stable, marketable, and easy to partner with. According to those familiar with entertainment negotiations, the mere possibility of Fergie exposing Meghan's behind-the-scenes struggles could be enough to make studios pause future deals. No one wants to be tied to a public relations explosion. No one wants to risk the headlines. And no one wants to invest in a figure who may be at the center of a royal firestorm. This is the part Meghan never saw coming. She believed leaving the monarchy meant she could reinvent herself entirely. But Hollywood is a business, not a sanctuary. And if Fergie chooses to reveal what she's hearing from the very insiders Meghan depends on, it won't just threaten her royal narrative, it could unravel the entire foundation of her California empire. And while Hollywood quietly recalibrates its distance, another rumor is beginning to ripple through the old royal corridors. One that shifts this entire story into far more dangerous territory. Because Fergie, for all the chaos that has followed her life, has one advantage Meghan never accounted for. She knows the people who watched everything from the shadows, the private secretaries, the assistants who organized schedules, the archivists who guarded decades of sensitive paperwork, the staff who never speak publicly, yet witness the kind of details that shape history from behind closed doors. According to whispers circulating among former employees, Fergie has been reaching out carefully, discreetly, but deliberately. These aren't casual check-ins. These are conversations with individuals who cataloged royal events, who handled confidential notes, who were present during moments the public never even knew occurred. Some insiders believe she's collecting more than memories. They claim she's gathering testimonies, old correspondences, and personal recollections that could solidify parts of her story into something impossible to dismiss. This is why the palace remains so unnervingly quiet. They know that if Fergie truly intends to step forward with a comprehensive account, they won't be able to control the narrative. And in that silence lies the most brutal truth of all: if a sacrifice must be made to shield the monarchy from scrutiny, the institution won't protect Meghan. They will let the storm consume her if it redirects attention away from them. Meanwhile, Meghan sits in California, believing she constructed a safe distance from the monarchy's reach. But distance means nothing when someone from your past is preparing to tell the version of events you worked tirelessly to bury. And Fergie's story carries a weight Meghan can't diminish with interviews, documentaries, or carefully curated brand deals. It comes from someone who stood close enough to understand her early maneuvering, yet far enough to speak without fear of losing royal favor. If Fergie chooses to release everything she knows, every whispered conversation, every overlooked moment, every detail that paints a different picture of Meghan's rise, the fallout won't be limited to headlines or social media debates. It will reshape the narrative of Meghan's entire career, her marriage, her public identity, and her place in the royal story. In the end, this conflict has never been about who is right. It has always been about who controls the story. And now, for the first time, Meghan may be facing someone capable of rewriting her past with a single book. The only question that matters now is simple, chilling, and unavoidable. When Sarah Ferguson finally speaks, whose truth will the world believe?